The message: I want a divorce from now on. Speak only to my lawyer. I didn't argue. I just replied with a simple understood. Then I got to work, canceled her credit cards, shut off every bit of financial support. 72 hours later, her attorney was blowing up my phone in a panic. Let me back up. I'm 42 male, and honestly, I'm still in a bit of a daze. Most days I'm just running on autopilot. Oddly enough, I feel almost calm. This all started 3 days ago on a Tuesday afternoon. I was buried in spreadsheets when my phone buzzed. It was my wife, Samantha. She's 39. The message was brutally short. She wrote, "Caleb, I want a divorce. Please send all future communication to my lawyer, Mr. Langley. I'll send his contact info shortly." Just like that, 15 years together, tossed aside in a single text. No heads up, nothing. We'd had dinner together the night before, even talked about what to do that weekend. There weren't any signs, nothing to prepare me. I just stared at the message, probably for 5 straight minutes. Shock, pain, anger. All of it bubbling beneath the surface. But right above it, just ice-cold clarity. She made the rules. No direct contact, just lawyers. So I followed suit, texted back, understood, and then I flipped the switch. From that point on, it wasn't personal anymore. It was business. Since she'd chosen the legal route, everything informal between us was immediately null. We'd always managed our day-to-day expenses separately anyway. Learned that the hard way after watching my parents go through a nasty divorce. She had her own bank account, I had mine, but the credit cards were another story. Samantha had authorized user status on a few of mine. Never joint ownership, just access I'd given. I opened my banking app, scrolled through the accounts, and with a couple of taps, I removed her access. Cards canceled, authorization revoked, that chapter closed. Then came the allowance. Every month, I've been transferring her a set amount into her personal account for whatever she needed. I pulled up the transfer settings, deleted the recurring payment, effective immediately. Next, subscriptions, Netflix, Prime, all that stuff. Those were under my name, logged out all devices, changed every password. If she wanted to stream, she'd have to pay for it herself now. The car she drove? Leased in my name, covered under my insurance. I didn't cancel the policy right away. Would have been reckless to leave her uninsured on the road, but I flagged it to bring up with my lawyer. That lease would need to be sorted out. Oh, and the gas card? That was tied to one of the now canceled credit accounts, so yeah, dead in the water. All of it took maybe half an hour. It wasn't revenge. It was simply stepping into the new reality she created. She'd made it clear. From here on out, everything goes through lawyers. Fine by me. Attorneys deal in contracts and facts, not assumptions based on relationship she just abandoned. About an hour later, her lawyer's info landed in my inbox. I forwarded it directly to MS. Harper, a top-notch divorce attorney one of my colleagues had strongly recommended. Shot her an email right away. The message from Samantha said lawyers only, so I complied. Told MS, Harper, I needed urgent legal guidance. How to move forward, protect my assets, and get her on retainer. Wrapped up my project for work and headed home. The house was already empty. She must have packed her things while I was out. I actually slept okay that night, which surprised me. 3 days passed, Friday afternoon rolls around, and I get a call from an unfamiliar number. I had a gut feeling who it was. I answered, "Hello. Is this Caleb?" Came a sharp, impatient voice. He said my full name like it was a problem. Speaking. "This is Mr. Langley. I represent Samantha." Of course. "My client is facing some urgent difficulties." I stayed calm. "Okay." "Her credit cards are being declined. Her access to funds has been suddenly cut off. That's highly irregular, Mr." I interrupted. "Mr. Langley, my wife texted me Tuesday asking for a divorce. She specifically stated all communication should go through you." I acknowledged that and followed it to the letter. That meant all informal financial arrangements were over. Any further support will be discussed legally through you and through my attorney, MS Harper, who I've retained. There was a pause. I could hear him flipping papers. "She requires funds now for basic necessities, temporary housing." That caught me off guard. "Wait, where's she staying?" "That's not relevant," he snapped. Cutting her off so abruptly was an act of bad faith. I kept my voice steady. "Mr. Langley, my wife ended our marriage with a text message and told me to speak only to you. That ended any trust-based financial arrangements we had. She's no longer entitled to unrestricted access to my accounts. If she needs support, we'll do it by the book." There was a much longer pause this time. "My client is seeking emergency financial relief," he said stiffly. That's all right, I replied. File whatever you need with MS. Harper, you have her contact info? I do, he said curtly. Great, then per Samantha's instructions, this conversation is over. Have a good day. I hung up. My heart was pounding, adrenaline flooding in. But underneath that was a strange sense of relief. She asked for cold and formal. That's exactly what she's getting. I'm just waiting now to hear back from MS. Harper. This is only the beginning. Update 1 week later. It's been a full week since Samantha's text blew everything up. As expected, things escalated quickly. Appreciate the messages and comments. It's good to know I'm not crazy. MS. Harper got back to me the same day. I sent the email. Mr. Langley followed up with a call soon after. She's solid. Told me my reaction made perfect sense given the tone and wording of Samantha's message. Her advice? Document everything. Mr. Langley made his first official move that Monday. He filed a formal request for emergency spousal support and asked the court to give Samantha exclusive use of the house, which, ironically, she had already left. The amount she wanted? Outrageous. She basically expected me to bankroll both her old lifestyle and her new living arrangements, including legal expenses. The entitlement? Off the charts. MS. Harper fired back. She offered a much smaller amount for temporary support, based strictly on actual need, not wishful thinking. She also made it clear Samantha was the one who vacated the home. And she emphasized that all my actions were a direct response to Samantha's demand that we speak only through attorneys. That's when a personal attack started. Samantha's best friend, Brianna, called me Wednesday night. I answered, thinking maybe she'd give me some useful information. Big mistake. The moment I picked up, she launched in no hello, no pause, just Caleb, what the actual fuck? You sighed? Pleon. Don't Brianna me, she snapped. Samantha's sleeping on my damn couch. You cut her off completely. She couldn't even buy groceries. Are you trying to make her homeless? I kept my voice steady. Brianna. She sent me a text demanding a divorce and said all communication had to go through her lawyer. I honored that. Bullshit, she hissed. You know she barely makes anything from that part-time design thing. How's she supposed to survive? She's scared. That part-time gig had always been more of a hobby than an income. Covered lattes and the occasional impulse buy, one couch a month maybe. She had time to hire a lawyer before even telling me she wanted out. I said quietly. That was her move. Now financial discussions happened through her attorney and mine. Brianna was having none of it. It's cruel, vindictive. You were married for 15 years. She was upset. She made a mistake. Instructing me to speak only through legal channels wasn't a tearful slip-up. I replied, hiring Mr. Langley before even talking to me? Also not a mistake. That was deliberate. And now everything goes through the process she insisted on. Brianna's tone turned sharp. You always took care of her. Now you're just going to walk away? I would have been open to a real conversation if she hadn't blown up our marriage through a cold text and lawyered up behind my back, but she made the rules. Now we stick to them. She's going to bleed you dry, she warned. She can try, I said evenly. If she wants money, she can go through the legal channel she demanded. That's what my lawyer is for, and I'm not having this discussion anymore. I hung up. So now I was the villain, apparently, for doing exactly what Samantha had asked, making it all formal. She was spinning this story like she was the abandoned, helpless victim. Then came the bank alert, one of those flagged activity messages. I checked and realized there was an old savings account we'd totally forgotten about, had maybe $500 in it, technically joint, though we hadn't touched it in years. Turns out Samantha had dug up the old debit card and tried to empty the account. The bank noticed the sudden activity on a long dormant account and froze it. I went in the next morning, explained the divorce proceedings, and had them lock it down pending the outcome. It wasn't about the money. It was the principle. The same woman who demanded all communication go through lawyers was now trying to siphon funds off the books. MS. Harper actually smiled when I told her, said it helped us. It showed Samantha wasn't quietly suffering, but actively looking for side doors out of the process she'd insisted on, strengthened our case ahead of the emergency support hearing. Meanwhile, Samantha was still crashing on Brianna's couch, and I had a feeling Mr. Langley was starting to realize his client had expected me to hand her a blank check indefinitely. Not happening. The initial shock had worn off. What was left was something colder, more determined. I knew this wasn't going to be pretty. Update 2. 3 weeks since it all started. Things escalated, obviously. We had the emergency support hearing last week. Samantha showed up looking tired. eyes darting anywhere but toward me. Mr. Langley tried to paint her as helpless and destitute, a victim of my supposed cruelty. And Miss Harper didn't raise her voice once. She calmly laid it all out, the text Samantha sent, the exact wording, the timelines. Bank statements proving I stopped the supplementary credit cards and discretionary transfers after receiving her message, not before. I continued paying the mortgage, utilities, car lease, and insurance. Kept up all the major shared costs. That wasn't spite, that was responsibility. Then we brought up the attempt to clean out that dormant joint account. And her income, it wasn't a lot, but it existed. She wasn't destitute. She just didn't have the extra cash she'd gotten used to. The judge didn't seem impressed with Langley's dramatics. Asked Samantha why she hadn't tried to talk things out with me beforehand. She mumbled something about feeling intimidated that got a raised eyebrow. In the end, the court ordered temporary support. It was a far cry from what Samantha's side had asked for, enough for basic necessities and some legal fee help, but none of the fluff she was used to. The judge even pointed out that her current financial discomfort was largely due to her own actions, her text, her demand for lawyer-only contact, her sneaky attempt to grab extra funds. I left the courthouse feeling like I'd dodged a freight train. But Samantha's team wasn't done. This week, they got dirty. First shot? Someone made an anonymous call to my HR department, claimed I was using company resources to handle my divorce and acting erratically at work. Luckily, I've always kept legal matters on my personal devices and email, and my boss knows me well enough to see through the smoke. HR ran a quick check, found nothing, called me in just to check the box. I explained what was happening, stayed calm. They dismissed the complaint without issue. Ms. Harper noted it, said we couldn't prove who made the call, but it clearly added to a pattern. Then came the second hit, Samantha's mom. She called me in tears, voice full of guilt-tripping rage. How could you do this to her? She gave you 15 years of her life. She's suffering. The judge was cruel. You need to help her. Same script, different voice. I gave her the same answer I gave everyone else. Samantha chose to end things through lawyers. I'm respecting her wishes. If she needs financial support, she can work that out legally. I'm not discussing it outside of court. She called me heartless and hung up. The emotional ambushes kept coming. They really thought I'd just fold under pressure, keep paying out of guilt or habit, that I'd be too soft to hold the line. They were wrong. I stopped reacting. I started preparing. If they wanted to play hardball, so would I, but by the book. Ms. Harper sent Langley a formal notice regarding the car. Now that support was ordered, it was time for Samantha to take over the lease. If she qualified, if not, she had to return it. I was giving 30 days notice that I'd stop covering the lease and insurance after that. The house? I filed for exclusive use. Since she'd left and hadn't been granted use by the court, it was a logical next step. We also began the formal valuation process for a potential buyout, doubtful she could afford it. But we were setting the groundwork. Asset division was next, and Ms. Harper was already pushing for full financial discovery. No more assumptions, no more guesswork. I had a hunch Samantha hadn't been fully transparent about her side of things. That time was over. We were going legal, step by step. No shortcuts, no favors. She wanted formal? She's getting formal. And now I'm ready for whatever's next. The real problems started with the house and the harassment that followed. I began documenting everything, every manipulative phone call, every anonymous complaint, every instance time-stamped and filed. Ms. Harper explained that a consistent pattern of bad faith tactics could weigh heavily in our favor when the final settlement and legal fees were decided. It wasn't about revenge. This was about staying methodical, organized, and strictly within the legal boundaries Samantha herself had drawn. Especially now, with her side stooping lower, that anonymous work complaint? That crossed a line. It made it clear decisive legal action wasn't just smart. It was necessary. Then yesterday, out of nowhere, Samantha broke her own rule and texted me directly. Caleb, you can't take the car. How am I supposed to get anywhere? You have to stop this. I took a screenshot and immediately forwarded it to Ms. Harper. My reply was brief and factual. Per your instructions, dated insert date. All communication is to go through attorneys. Please contact Mr. Langley. Then came the final stretch, 6 months later. 7 months had passed since that one text detonated everything. The divorce was finalized last month, though it feels like it happened in another lifetime. So here's how it ended. The last 6 months were a slow grind. Legal trench warfare. Mr. Langley kept delaying. Samantha kept playing the victim, and reasonable offers were dismissed as if compromise were a foreign language. The car became a full-blown battleground. Samantha couldn't qualify to take over the lease, but she outright refused to return it. Langley claimed it was a necessity. Mess. Harper calmly pushed back, reminding the court that the temporary support already covered basic transportation. The deadline came and went. I contacted the leasing company and told them I was no longer making payments. Samantha wasn't even an authorized driver. The car was repossessed right from outside Brianna's place. Cue the frantic calls from Brianna, from Samantha's mom. I ignored them all and forwarded everything straight to Ms. Harper. Samantha was livid, but by then, the consequences were hers alone. She'd boxed herself in. The house? I secured exclusive use. It sold quickly. The equity went into escrow while we hashed out division. Samantha fought for a bigger share, claiming she was at an economic disadvantage. That's when we really pressed on financial discovery, and that's when the truth came out. She had another savings account. Turns out, her parents had been slipping her money for years, not to mention a few inherited stocks she conveniently forgot to disclose. Langley insisted it was separate property. A mess. Harper proved she'd commingled it with marital finances and that it had only remained untouched thanks to my income, covering all the essentials. And that anonymous complaint? Still no proof it came from her. But the timing and context were enough for the judge to take note during final proceedings. We didn't get damages, but it reinforced the picture of bad faith. The final settlement happened just before what would have been a nasty trial. The judge made it clear he was running out of patience with Samantha's tactics during pretrial talks. Faced with the risk of losing big and possibly having to pay my legal fees, Samantha folded. We split the house equity nearly evenly, with a small edge to me because of her hidden assets. The stocks? Treated as marital property. Her little personal savings account? She got to keep that. Spousal support was time-limited. Just 2 years of rehabilitative alimony, far less than what she demanded, enough to help her land on her feet, not bankroll her old lifestyle. It's also contingent on her showing real effort toward becoming self-sufficient. As for legal fees, we each paid our own. Honestly, that was a win. At least I didn't end up footing her bill. So where's she now? Small apartment, working more hours, still complaining about money. From what I hear, Brianna's pulled back. Seems being her safety net wasn't what she signed up for. Her parents? Probably still pitching in. Apologies? Regret? None. Samantha still seems bewildered that I didn't just keep financing her life after she torched the marriage. That sense of entitlement ran deep. She genuinely believed she was owed comfort, regardless of her choices. Me? It was 7 rough months, expensive, draining, but I'm better, I'm good. There's peace in closing that chapter. I kept my job, I held my ground, I got a fair share, and I learned something important. I can handle crisis without losing myself. Now I'm back at the gym, reconnecting with friend Samantha, always disliked, enjoying the quiet of my own home. No fireworks, no cinematic revenge, just the slow, unyielding consequences of her actions meeting my calm, lawful resistance. She wanted a legal battle, she got one, and with it came the cold, sharp edge of financial reality. And that's satisfaction enough. Thanks again for letting me space this all out. It helped more than I expected. Time to move forward.